Welcome to another episode of the Positively Insane Podcast with your host and spirit guide, Kevin Alexander.
What's up, motherfuckers? So, I know on the last episode, at the end there, I kind of said that I would talk about my past relationship, the long-term abusive relationship I was in. But I kind of have been thinking about a different topic entirely, and I want to talk about that a little bit tonight. Excuse me. Because the relationship whole topic thing, the abusive relationship shit, that requires a certain mindset to tell that particular story, and I'm just not feeling it right now. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about why people don't try their best at whatever it is that they're doing in life, myself included. And it's something I've been working on a lot this last year, and I still have a long way to go, but I have made significant significant progress in a few areas, specifically work. You know, the amount of effort I put in at work, the quality of work I do, and the pride I find in doing a really good job. And I've also tried to incorporate that mindset into my podcast, not as much as work itself, you know, because I put a lot into what I do at work. You know, I work in the fast food industry. You know, it's not a glamorous job. You know, anybody can do what I do. I'm not trying to say that nobody else could do as good as I do or work as hard as I do. It has nothing to do with my, you know, ability to do, or my ability to perform better than others. It all has to do with just the drive and, you know, the effort I put into what I currently am doing for a living. And like I said, I'm trying to take some of that and focus it into my podcast, and it's so far, you know, it's been working. You know, when I started this podcast a year ago, I guess it'll be a year ago in December, so not quite a full year. It was just a fun little hobby that I would just do an episode whenever. You know, I didn't put any real effort into consistency, and you know, I would do 3 or 4 episodes a night and then not do any episodes for weeks. You know, I would release them all in one night, and then there would be nothing for a while. I'm trying to be a lot more consistent. I'm trying to release at least 1 episode a week, and sometimes 2 to 3. If I can get it up to the 2 or 3 episode range, I think that'll be perfect. But the whole concept of doing your best, regardless of what you do, regardless of whether or not you like your job or whether or not you're passionate about your job. I've been thinking a lot about this lately, especially since I started working where I currently work. This is the first job that I've actually put substantial effort into. You know, I work hard every day. I'm constantly busy. I'm constantly on the move. You don't see me standing around fucking off. You don't see me dicking around on my phone. It's extremely rare for anybody to walk into that restaurant and see me just standing there not doing something either. I'm sweeping, wiping down my area. I'm picking up after the other motherfuckers I work with who can't seem to manage to do that themselves. I'm doing dishes if there's dishes to be done. You know, there's always something that needs to be done. And that goes without saying for any job. You know, I've never had a job where somebody could legitimately say, I don't have anything to do. That's bullshit. There's always something to do. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to put in the fucking effort to do it, or if you're just there, to fucking put your thumb up your ass and milk the clock for a paycheck. And I just don't understand that mindset, even though for most of my life that's exactly what I did. And I'll be 33 next month, and like I said, this is the first, and I've only been here for about 6 months, but this is the first job where I show up on time. And it took a little bit. I mean, like, I didn't work for a long time for a while, and I was homeless for a while, and I was super depressed, and I had a lot of shit going on in my own head, and doing a lot of drugs, and basically just wallowing in my own self-pity and self-loathing, and I just didn't give a fuck, not just over the last few years, but for most of my life. I didn't see a purpose behind busting my ass, especially for somebody else, so I get that, you show up, you're making a fraction of what your boss is making, and you're from your perspective, from my perspective, from the average employee's perspective on the bottom, it seems like you're doing a lot more than your boss a lot of the times. But and so, I mean, I guess since I've been trying, and I won't say I've been trying my hardest, right? I'm not gonna sugarcoat that shit and say I've been doing my absolute best. I'm not. But I've been putting in at least 90% effort. And that's a significant effort when the people you're surrounded by are doing the bare minimum. To me 100% effort is going your hardest, nonstop, from the second you punch in to the second you punch out. You're going balls to the walls as hard as you can. I don't do that. I go about 90%. I'm still busting my ass, but I'm not, I'm not overdoing it. I try not to cut corners, and I try not to half-ass anything. And the things that I was half-assing for a while, I'm constantly trying to improve those. One of the things is mopping. I fucking hate mopping that kitchen. The floor in that place sucks. Nobody ever wants to sweep. It should be swept on a regular basis all day. Anytime there's downtime, somebody should be sweeping. Nobody wants to do it. I'm the only one. I shouldn't say I'm the only one. People do sweep, but usually only when they're forced to. If I got downtime, I immediately grab a broom. Nobody has to fucking tell me what to do. And when I'm working with somebody and they start telling me what to do, it kind of frustrates me, because I've been there long enough now. I have a routine and I have a good system. I know what I need to do and when I need to do it by, to have all of my shit done, at a respectable time at the end of the night. They want us out of there by 11:45. We close. We stop taking orders at 11 o'clock. They want us out of there by 11:45, and I've yet to make that happen. And I've been trying my goddamn hardest. There's just so much shit that needs to be done within my shift, and sometimes we just don't have enough people, and the people we do have, they're just not managing their time properly. There are a lot of people that I work with that they just, I don't know, they're just not putting in my opinion, anything beyond the bare minimum effort. I've been a closer the closer, the main closer in this place for about 6 months now. And I have everything, like I said, I have everything down to pretty much a science. And when I work with a manager who doesn't work with me on a regular basis, and they have their, idea of what needs to be done and how it should be done, and it throws me completely off, and I get super frustrated, when I see those dishes piling up by the sink, and I'm not able to get them done like I want to because I'm put on other tasks that don't need to be done yet, because I know there's a certain time of the night when I like to get everything done, whether it's the dishes, whether it's fucking breaking down the fry station and cleaning that shit, whether the sweep and the mop. I have my set routine and it works well. And I get thrown off. I don't understand. There's certain people I work with who just let me do my thing and things work out right, and there's no issues. And then there are other people I work with, and they all have good intentions, but it's just like, let me do my fucking thing, because of all the people working right now, I'm the only one putting in a serious effort. When I'm making sandwiches, I'm fucking doing my best to get those done as quickly as possible. My store manager, just the last day I worked, I don't work with her very often because she's almost never there beyond 4 or 5, and I've been there for about 6 months, like I said, and I'm making these sandwiches, and I'm fucking getting them up there, doing it quick and shit like that. And she even said, like, holy shit, you're a lot quicker than I thought you were. And I took that as a compliment, but at the same time, it's like, how quick, what else did you expect from me? Like, of course I'm quick. I'm always trying to do better without overextending myself. But I work with so many people, not in just this place, but in every job I've ever had, but especially this place. I work with a lot of teenagers. And I was the same way when I was a teen. I didn't give any shits at all. Like, I did not give a fuck. I'm here because I have to be here, and I don't want to work hard. I was that exact same way. My very first job, I spent more time sitting on my ass, if I could, than I did actually doing the shit I was supposed to be doing. I did the bare minimum. But here I am at this age, and it's like it took me until now, which, I had my own, like I said, my own reasons, my own story, my own drama, throughout my 20s and shit like that, where doing the best that I could, or doing really fucking good, it just wasn't a priority to me. I had too much other shit that I was thinking about, and doing really well at work just wasn't a priority to me. I didn't give a fuck. I was only there because I had to be there, because that's what you have to fucking do as an adult. You have no choice. And that's what I looked at it as. And I still, to this day, look at it as I have no choice. But I use that, I don't have a choice on whether or not I have to be there. I do have to be there. But if I'm going to fucking be there, I want to do as good as I can. And I've been trying to convey that message to other people I'm working with, and it's just, I don't know how to get through to them. I don't know if somebody could have gotten through to me when I was younger. But it's just, Louis C.K. is one of my favorite comedians, and he has a bit about 20-year-olds. You can find it on YouTube. Just look up Louis C.K. 20-year-olds. It's funny. It's a funny fucking bit, but it's just basically like, his main point is, whatever it is you do do the shit out of it. You know what I mean? And even when I saw him talking, or when I saw that him perform that bit, it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago. And in the back of my mind, I was like, he's completely right. He's completely right. So why don't I do? Why don't I put in the kind of effort that he's talking about? You know, he's probably, not probably, he is one of the most successful comedians, you know, of the last 5 to 10 years. He's not making a lot of waves right now. I think he's got a TV show and shit, a pretty successful TV show. But I mean, in the period between 2005 to 2015, he blew the fuck up, and he busts his fucking ass, right? He puts out a new hour every year. Like, he's one of the most prolific comedians out there. And so I looked up to that. You know, I look up to people who have an insane work ethic, you know, like Joe Rogan, you know, from the Joe Rogan Experience. You know the motherfucker from Fear Factor or from the UFC. He's constantly doing something, constantly, and if he's not working, he's working out. You know, he's a very disciplined guy with a fantastic work ethic, and that's something I've been lacking most of my life. You know. And I still, to a certain degree, am lacking it in many areas of my life. You know, I'm putting in almost maximum effort at work, but in my personal life, at home, you know, with my personal projects, I'm kind of failing there. You know, I don't maintain my apartment as much as I would like. I don't keep it as clean as I would like. You know, I'm a procrastinator to the very end. I've always been that way. I've always been really lazy about certain things, especially when I have nobody to hold me accountable for those things. And I'm trying to improve on those. But the most important for me at this point that I desperately needed was a drive as far as an actual job goes, because I hate working. I don't know anybody who loves working. I don't love my job. You know what I mean? My job is extremely stressful. You know, I constantly feel like I'm at my wit's end. I'm running my ass off the whole time, and it always feels like it's not good enough, because there's always something else that needs to get done. There's not enough time to get it done in. And a big part of that is because the rest of the team that I work with, and I call it a team, it doesn't feel like a team, but it should. It needs to be a team. But the rest of the people I work with, not all of them, but a significant portion of them, they're not pulling their weight. They're not pulling their weight. And there are people who I know, it hasn't been said, it hasn't been spoken out loud, but I know that they don't work as hard because they know I'll pick up the slack. And that's fucking bullshit. And it's a douchebag move. And a lot of these people are younger, and you know, they're young adults. And I wish I knew how to put it in their head that if, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do your best at whatever you do. And none of the important ones have anything to do with your actual job itself. I don't give a fuck about impressing my bosses. That's the last thing on my mind. I'm not there to impress anybody other than myself. You know, I'm challenging myself to do the best I can. I'm there to improve upon myself and impress myself, because for so long I've been disappointed in myself. You know, I've known that I have a certain potential in anything I do, that I can try my best, and I know that I could do good or do really well at anything I put my mind to. I've just never been willing to put in the effort. Never. Until recently. And even then, and even now, I'm still reluctant to take on anything extra. Like, they have been talking about wanting to make me a manager for, I don't know, the last 4 months out of the 6 months I've been there. And I've had no interest in it at all. You know, I've been in management before when about 10 years ago. I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't trained for it. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. They didn't do a good job training me in. It was a learn as you go kind of process, and I was constantly overwhelmed. I was in charge of, 6 to 7 people every night. In charge of a whole store, about the size of a small Walmart. And I fucking hated it. And I was so lazy. There were times where I would just go hide in the, back room where all of our extra merchandise was stored. And I would just go chill back there on a recliner, in the furniture section, and just hide from everybody until I got a call on the radio and somebody needed me. I didn't put in any effort in any job I've had, except for when I worked at Polaris. I did what I had to do because I was on an assembly line, and there was a bare minimum I had to maintain so the people in the next position didn't get fucked over. And I liked that job. It was, I had my set tasks, I got good at it, and I did it, for like a year and a half, 2 years, and then the fucking economy went to shit in 2008, and I got laid off. And other than that job and the one I have now, man, I just didn't give a fuck. There was times where I put in effort, and then times where just like, fuck it, what am I doing this for? But I'm at a point now where it's like, I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for the money. I make bullshit. I make minimum wage, right? So it's not like I'm getting paid for the effort. I could put in minimum effort and get paid the same. So I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I know that this is the type of shit required by myself to make any improvements whatsoever in my life. I'm gonna fuck this up. There's an old saying that in order to become... Hold on, let me think about this. I don't want to fuck it up too much. In order to become something you've never been, you have to be willing to do something you've never done. And that's somewhat of a paraphrase there. I know word for word that's not exact. But basically, in order to change, any aspect of who you are, in order to improve upon any aspect of who you are, you have to be willing to step it fucking up. You have to step it the fuck up. And you don't have to do it all overnight. It's a process. It's an ongoing process that never ends. It should never end. You should never be done improving. There is no end to that path. The end is when you die. There is no, okay, I've achieved everything, I've become the perfect person, because there is no such thing as the perfect person. There is no such thing as the perfect you. There are a few things that you can do. You can either A, completely accept who you are and don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. And that's a very popular mindset these days, about anything. I am who I am, and if you can't accept me for who I am, then fuck you, basically. Whether it has to do with your physical appearance, maybe you're overweight. I'm overweight. I used to be really overweight. I used to be my heaviest was 325 pounds. I used to be a pretty fat guy. You know, whether it's your physical well-being or just your attitude, you know, the kind of person you are. It's a very, very popular mindset these days to, you know, just say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. It makes sense. I get it. You know, accept yourself, and those who can't accept you, whatever. But the danger in that mindset is you no longer feel like you need to improve upon yourself. And a lot of people gravitate towards that whole take me as I am, you know, frame of mind, because they want to take the easy way out. You know, they don't want to improve upon who they are, because self-improvement is fucking hard. It's a daily battle. And you're going to lose the battle many days. Many of those days you're going to fucking fail miserably. And there might even be days where you backtrack. You know, that whole 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That shit happens to me all the time. I constantly see myself sliding back. But I draw a line. You know, whether it's my weight. You know, if I get depressed, I start to binge eat and I start to see myself gaining weight again. Or whether it's my attitude towards other people. You know, I'm a very empathetic person, but I also tend to care too much about people to the point where it negatively affects me, and then I shut down, and I'm just outside of my close circle of people that I really care about. I'll be a dick. I'll be a dick to just about anybody. You know, I find myself getting to a point where if I'm in a shitty mood and I get on Facebook, I'll just destroy people in some of my Facebook groups for no reason other than the fact that I want to be an asshole. And that's just not cool. That's not who I am on a deep level. That's not who I want to be. So when you see yourself sliding back, or when I see myself sliding back, taking those 2 steps back, you know, you have to draw that fucking line in the sand and say enough is enough. I have to start moving forward again. You know, and it's a constant struggle, and it's a constant give and take process. And, you know, you're not, like I said, you're not going to win every day. You're not going to improve every day, but you have to constantly be trying. Otherwise, what the fuck is the point in life, you know? I just don't see a purpose to living if you're not trying to improve. And you don't have to give 100%, but make the effort to move forward. Especially in those areas in your life that you know need improvement, because they are negatively affecting your life, whether it's drug use, alcohol use, you know, being a shitty worker, being a shitty friend, you know, being a shitty family member. All of those things, every single one of them, I have been and done and struggled with. You know, I've been a shitty motherfucking friend. I've hurt a lot of my fucking friends. And I have a lot of amends to make. And I may not be able to make them. You know, that's up to them. But I'm constantly trying to improve on that specific aspect of who I am. I want to be better. I want to be a better friend. I know I can be better, and I'm trying to improve upon that. You know, whether it's friends I've had for a long time that I've let down over and over again, and I'm trying to improve that relationship if they'll let me, or it's new friends that come into my life. You know, the people the people who consider me a really good guy, you know, they see the best in me. Those are most likely the friends that I have made within the last 2 years, because I have tried really hard to improve on a lot of things. So they haven't seen who I was and where I came from and how I acted and how I treated people. You know, I was a very selfish person for a long time. I think everyone is selfish to a certain extent. I'm still a selfish person, and that's something I'm trying to improve on. But, you know, like all those things, like I was saying, being a better friend, being a better family member. You know, I struggle with being a better family member because my relationship with most of my family has been pretty rocky for most of my life. That particular situation hasn't all been my fault. You know, some of my family members suck. One in particular, mostly my father. You know, and I've been able to improve upon most of the other relationships. You know, they're not as bad as they used to be, but they're not as good as I'd like them to be. The drugs and alcohol, I've been able to drastically improve upon those over the last 2 years. I don't stay 100% sober and clean, but I no longer, at this point in my life, I no longer have any serious addictions that I struggle with. You know, I don't do anything I mostly only fuck with weed and psychedelics if I can find them, and you know, I'll drink from time to time. There's no serious problems there. I've pretty much, you know, slayed the dragon, so to speak. Being a better worker, you know, that's something that I've worked really hard on over the last 6 months at the job that I have, and you know, I've made significant strides there, and I've agreed to take a management position now because I know my job well enough, and I'm good enough at it that I think I would make a really good manager, a really good shift manager. I'm not trying to, you know, climb the fucking chain too high. I'm just taking the next step, you know, more as a challenge to myself than anything. They want me to be a manager because they know I'll be a valuable asset to them. And I don't give a fuck about that. You know, I'm not there to be a valuable asset. I'm there to prove something to myself. And also, when you work as hard as you can, or as close to as hard as you can, when you put in a consistent, solid effort every fucking day, even if it feels like nobody appreciates that, and it often does feel like nobody appreciates the effort I put in, but I'm learning so much about myself. I'm learning the depths. You know, I used to consider, you know, myself a very shallow person when it came to the effort I was willing to put into things. You know, because I was almost never willing to put effort into anything, even things that I loved, even playing guitar or my writing. You know, when it got to a point where it started to become difficult and it was no longer super fun and super easy, I gave up on it. And I also did that with any job I ever had. So I've learned so much more about the reservoir, or you know, the how deep I'm willing to dig to prove something to myself. And I'm not just busting my ass for this fast food place or for my bosses. You know, this is shit I'm gonna carry with me for the rest of my life. No matter what I do 6 months from now, 6 years from now, I'm gonna take what I've learned about myself, what I've been able to show myself, and what I've proven to myself, You know, the work ethic that I have found that I never thought I had before. You know, I'm absorbing everything like a fucking sponge, you know. I'm not just mastering my job, but, you know, I'm going to be a very good manager. And I hate to say this, but I feel like I'm going to be one of the best. And I feel like a lot of people are going to hate working with me because I'm going to be very strict. I'm going to be by the book. I'll be super fun to work with and friendly. But if you're not putting in the kind of effort that I put in, I'm going to be hard on you. I'm going to be real fucking hard on you. Because I know that everyone can do it. And I guess what I'm trying to say, man, is like, if you're not doing as good as you can, ask yourself why. Why aren't you putting in the effort that you can put in, that you know you can put in? And whether it's your relationship with your significant other, whether it's the effort you put in at work, you know, whether it's the effort you put into your hobbies, you know, the things that you're passionate about. If you're not doing as good as you can, why? You know, why? Why are you being stagnant? Why are you putting things off? Why aren't you putting in the effort? You know, and I think for a lot of people, it's because they just don't see any benefit to putting in that effort, or they're full of self-doubt. They don't think, you know, they're worried about failure. You know, they're worried about putting in the effort and then discovering the opposite of what I discovered. I think a lot of people are worried about putting in the effort and then discovering that they don't have what it takes. You know, but that's okay. That's okay, because you still have learned something about yourself. And what you've learned is this isn't for you. Stop wasting your time. Stop wasting your life. And find something else that is for you. You know? And no, working in the fast food industry, that's not my life. That's not my, you know, goal, my career goal. You know, I got the job because I needed the job. And I don't plan on being here forever. You know, I definitely have very high aspirations for myself. I'm not exactly sure what it is that I'm going to pursue 100%. But I know now that whatever it is I choose to do, I know that I can fucking put in some serious work. And if I can work this hard for somebody else, I can have a real good idea of how hard I'm going to be willing to work for myself when it's something that I'm really passionate about. You know, there's no excuse to not do your best at whatever it is, whether you're going to school, you know, give me one good reason to put in a minimum effort. Give me a good example where minimum effort benefits you, seriously benefits you. There's none. There's absolutely none. And you can apply this shit to any aspect of your life. And there's no reason not to. And I'm telling you, it's going to be hard. It's going to be fucking really hard some days. But in the long run, you're going to feel so much better about yourself. And like I said, man, I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I got so much shit I need to improve on. There's so many parts of my life that need serious improvement. And the only way it's going to happen, though, is by fucking trying and putting in the effort. You know, if there's something you want to do that you've been thinking about doing, that you've been dreaming about doing, fucking start trying, man. You know, I thought about doing this podcast for years before I finally got around to giving it a shot. And even after I started doing it, it still took me almost a whole year to start taking it seriously. because I was constantly full, specifically, full of a lot of insecurities, a lot of self-doubt, and I would ask myself, what the fuck do I have to say that's worth somebody else's time? And I still don't know. I still don't really know what I have to say that's worth somebody else's time to sit down and spend 45 minutes listening to it. But people are listening to it. Not a whole shitload, but there are people who actually listen to this. And so somebody finds value in it. I find value in doing it. If I can make somebody laugh, if I can provide somebody with just a little bit more motivation to try something, even if it's just a seed that I plant in their mind now, and then over the course of the next 2 or 3, 4 years, other seeds get planted as well, and other things that they see or they read or they watch or they involve themselves in, it's an accumulation. At least it was for me. It was an accumulation of many little seeds here and there. It wasn't just one thing that motivated me to do something. It wasn't just this one episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, or this one book that I read, or this one film that I saw, or this one person I talked to. It was an accumulation of all of those things that finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to fucking try. I'm going to try. And who gives a fuck if it doesn't work out? At least I can say I tried. And I hope I can be a seed for some of those people listening. The whole, my target audience for this podcast is people like me, who were like me, who are in a lot of situations like I was, who are in a really shitty point in their life, or have been in a shitty point in their life for a long time, and they're looking for a real escape, not just drugs or alcohol or temporary escapes, but they're looking for something to hold on to, or something to aspire to, to pull themselves out of the bullshit. And for me, podcasts and music and films and books, those were those things that I turned to, those positive things that I turned to, that eventually inspired me to actually start putting in effort. And for the first time in years, I have a job that I'm consistent with. I have my own place, and I'm actually doing the podcast. You know what I mean? It's just one little thing. But for years I was doing nothing. I would just dream, and I accomplished nothing. I was a chronic daydreamer and a chronic procrastinator. So every little step you take counts. Every little thing you do, as long as it's in the right direction, it counts. And eventually they'll accumulate to something you can be proud of. It takes time, though, and it takes effort. And I guess that's really all I have to say. My time's almost up. And I just ask yourself why you're not doing the best you can. And ask yourself, now don't ask yourself anything else other than that. Ask yourself why you're not doing the best you can. And if the answer you have to that question sounds like bullshit, then figure it out, man. Start making that effort. Start fucking trying. Do your best. Do your fucking best. And on that note, if you like the podcast, head on over to my Positively Insane podcast page on Facebook. Give me a like and follow. Give me a subscription on YouTube, Positively Insane Podcast again. You can find me on Twitter, Positively IPC. You can email me questions or suggestions at positivelyinsanepodcast@gmail.com. You can send me messages on Facebook. I'll reply to them as soon as I can. Hit me up. What would you like to hear me talk about in future episodes? What have you liked so far? And yeah, man, fucking have a good weekend.